When the pressure in the tire is real low and that tire is flexing around, it can kind of lead to a vague feeling in the bike. What's up, guys? This is Levi with Berkshire Bike and Board, and I am the technical director for the mechanic team here at Berkshire Bike and Board. Today we're here to talk about tire pressure, to answer all of the mysterious and unique things that you may find when trying to figure out just how much you're trying to pump your bike up. So I like to think of tire pressure as the most basic form of bike maintenance. There's really only one tool that you need to get your tire pressure dialed, and that's a pump. And generally they'll have a gauge included on the pump. If they don't have a gauge, or if you're trying to get super accurate, you can get one of these digital or analog tire pressure gauges, and this will really get you dialed to that exact pressure. You might have asked yourself in the past, why do I have to put my tires up? Why don't they just hold the air? The rubber is porous, and there's a process called permeation that occurs when a tire is inflated. So that's basically just a fancy word for the air inside the tire very slowly is leaking through the rubber. This happens at a faster rate the higher the pressure inside the tire. So the first question is, how often do we have to inflate our tires? Now, the best case scenario, and one that many avid riders do, is going to be before every single ride. That way, depending on the conditions, depending on what you're looking for, you can really hit that exact pressure. If you're not so concerned about everything being completely perfect, you might be able to get away with once a week. Again, the higher the tire pressure that you're running, the more often you have to check. Certainly, if you're going for more than a week without riding, it's best to just check the pressure. The most basic form of a guide you're going to have for tire pressure is going to be the posted range on the outside of the tire. This bike here, it says between 35 and 65 pounds of pressure. Now, that range is designed to keep as a wide group of people happy and to just be kind of the basic guidelines. If you're just trying to get out and ride your bike, in theory, anywhere in that range is going to be fine. I'd shoot for the middle, and that'll get you out and rolling. But if you really want to get into the details, keep watching and we'll go through exactly where you want to find yourself on that range. First, talking about low tire pressure, high tire pressure, and then how you're going to find exactly what you're looking for. The first thing I want to talk about is low pressure. There's definitely a few benefits of low pressure. The biggest two benefits that you're going to see are traction and comfort. And the reason you're going to see those is because the lower the pressure we're running, the more this tire can conform into the ground, and that allows it to have a larger contact patch. Essentially, that is meaning we have more rubber touching the ground. Softer tire is really going to absorb a lot of those bumps and imperfections that you might see on the road or gravel, and some of those roots and rocks you might see out in the mountain bike. When we talk about low tire pressure, it's relative to the range that we have posted on the side of the tire. There are a few drawbacks to running low pressure, especially when you get too far low on that scale. The first one is that you are going to have an increased risk of pinch flattening. More likely to get a flat tire is not necessarily a good thing. You're also going to have a little bit more rolling resistance, especially on really smooth surfaces. In certain situations, that tire being so soft might give you a vague feeling, particularly around corners or really high-paced riding. When the pressure in the tire is real low, you don't have that direct contact point with the ground. You kind of have the tire rolling around, and if you're trying to be really spot on a line and that tire is flexing around, it can kind of lead to a vague feeling in the bike. You have a lack of precision with the tires. We talked about the benefits and the drawbacks of low pressure. Now let's do the same with high pressure. This is a road tire, a fair bit narrower, and these are typically ran at higher pressures. Some of the benefits of a higher pressure tire, the first is going to be that they're more resistant to flats. So that kind of ties into the negatives of soft pressure. Biggest thing, flat protection. The harder the tire within that range, the more reliable it's going to be. If you're just a weekend warrior and you're not super concerned about performance, that higher pressure is going to be key because it's going to increase your reliability. As we had talked about, when a tire is pumped up a bit more, it's going to have a sharper, more precise feeling. And then the final one here is going to be the rolling resistance. In particular, if you're on a really smooth surface, whether that's a smooth mountain bike trail or a smooth road, that harder tire is going to increase your efficiency. Some of the drawbacks to a higher pressure tire, it's the opposite of the soft tire. Where we get comfort from a soft tire, if it's too inflated, we're going to get a harsh ride. So it's not going to absorb any of those bumps and cracks and roots and rocks that we encounter. There's going to be less traction. This tire is not going to be able to flex into the contact patch of the road or trail, and you're just going to be riding on this really short portion of the tire. With wider tires, you can get some bouncing. If you're on a fat bike or even a wide-tired mountain bike, if that tire is overinflated, it's going to turn into a basketball and you're just going to bounce all around over the trail. To summarize, whether you're on a road tire, gravel tire, mountain bike tire, the concept's all going to be the same. If you want more comfort and you're not super worried about pinch flatting, a softer pressure is going to be good. If you want more traction's a priority. You're on a road with a lot of loose gravel, or you're on a mountain bike trail that's wet and slippery, you're going to want to bump that tire pressure down. All right, so you might ask yourself, why can't we run all three of these tires at the same pressure? This tire here has a lot more volume. This gravel tire is going to be right in the middle, and this road tire is going to have the lowest volume of these three tires. With the tire having less volume, there's a lot less between you and the road. So we're going to have to run this at a really high pressure to keep everything nice and firm. With this wider mountain bike tire here, there's 2.5 inches width of tire that's going to keep you between the trail, and it's going to have a lot of give to keep you isolated from those events. It's going to have a lot of vertical travel before you're reaching this rim here. Wider tire, wider rim, less pressure. Narrower tire, narrower rim, we're going to need to bump that pressure up. We're going to talk about some factors that would lead you to increase the tire pressure. The first one that comes to mind for me is if avoiding a flat tire is a high priority. That might be because you're on a really long ride out in the middle of nowhere, or it might be because the terrain that you're riding on is really conducive to flat tires. So lots of sharp roots, rocks, potholes, anything along those lines. In those situations, I'd want to increase the tire pressure. This is a little bit of a catch-22 here, but if you're on an extremely smooth glass road, you're going to want to increase the tire pressure. If you're taking a lot of fast corners, you're going to want to increase the tire pressure. If you're feeling that vague feeling that we talked about earlier and you want a little more sharpness out of your tire, bump it up. Because this is such a unique situation to everyone here, I got a little bit of homework for you guys. I'm going to introduce you to a concept called bracketing. And in this scenario, what that means, I'll give you an example. If I was trying to find the perfect tire pressure for this tire in particular, I'd go out and I'd ride my bike at max pressure of the tire. I'd get a feel for what that's like for 5 or 10 minutes, just enough to get the feel. You go in and you bump that pressure down to the minimum pressure. You ride around for a few minutes, being very careful to avoid any harsh hits, and you get a feel for what that's like. So now that you kind of are familiar with those extremes, when you're wondering, hey, is my pressure a little bit high or a little bit low, you can just reference in what direction you'd like to go. A pinch flat is when you're riding along and you hit a pothole, a curb, a root, this tire deforms all the way to the point that this edge here and this edge of the rim are making contact and they're pinching the tire. This can pinch the tube, it can pinch the tire, and as you can imagine, this is a lot more likely to happen the less pressure that we have. If this tire was nice and firm, it's going to hit, it might deform a little bit, and then it's going to roll over. Too soft, you're going to hit, you're going to pinch, and you're going to end up with a flat tire. One thing that you can do to kind of get the best of both worlds in terms of reliability and that traction and comfort is to run a tubeless tire. So when we were talking about pinch flatting, that tube is a lot thinner than the tire itself. If we remove that tube, we can run tubeless. So the tire itself seals to the rim. When you have that scenario, the tire becomes a lot more reliable, and that's going to allow you to run lower pressures. On the mountain bike tires, we can take that a step further even. So this tire here has no tube in it. This has a thicker casing tire. So not only is the tire itself thicker than the tube, this tire is extra thick and it's designed to be more reliable. Sweet. I've been Levi. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and I'm excited to make more videos. This one was the first, so we're only going up from here.